FGM EU. We are an umbrella organization of 32 organizations in 15 different European countries. And we operate as a meeting ground for communities, NGOs, CSOs, and different stakeholders on European level, but we also work on global level to engage, interact, cooperate, and share experiences and knowledge. As some of you may know, this year the UNFPA and UNICEF joint program on the elimination of FGM has launched the theme Accelerating Investment to End Female Genital Mutilation. This is, of course, a theme that we fully endorse, and it's truly important, though it's also important to acknowledge what it means and also what it takes to work towards the elimination of FGM, something that our network knows a lot about. So speaking about knowledge, our membership is truly a wealth of expertise on what is actually needed to end FGM. This is why this year our campaign will strive to share this knowledge with all of you. And in 2022, we really want to give the center stage to the people and the organizations who make up the movement towards ending FGM, not only to celebrate them, but to give access to their insights, to their knowledge of what it means to be working to end FGM. Today, this event is also focused on a specific component that is really at the core of our movement, that is both fundamental and unfortunately severely underfunded, and that is community engagement. Today, we will hear from community activists as well as policymakers about why community involvement is vital to achieve our goal on eliminating FGM. Lastly, before we get started, I just want to have a quick look on the agenda so you all know what's coming. We are going to have two opening interventions. One by the global coordinator of the UNFPA-UNICEF joint program to eliminate FGM, Ms. Mirelle Tushiminina, as well as an intervention on the power of youth to end FGM by one of our very own youth ambassadors. That will lead us to a panel discussion on community leadership to end FGM in Europe and beyond. Where we will have our co-president moderating that, as well as two policymakers and two community activists that exchange on this very, very important theme. And after that, to end, well, towards the end, after the panel, we are going to look more closely of what is coming in our 2022 campaign. And then lastly, we're going to have an intervention specifically on the male engagement in ending FGM, also brought to you by one of our ambassadors. So that is what you have in store for today. And without further ado, I am very excited to introduce to you our first speaker. And that, as I mentioned before, is the global coordinator of the UNFPA-UNICEF joint program on the elimination of FGM. She has more than 21 years of expertise at the senior management level, international development, conflict prevention and resolution, peace building, policy reforms, women's peace and security agenda, human rights and gender democratization. Before joining the UNFPA in Addis, Ethiopia, she served as a country program coordinator for UN Women in Burundi. She will present the joint program and the current situation on working towards the SDG 5.3. Mirelle Tushiminina, welcome. We are so glad to have you here. You have the floor.
Thank you so much, Anna, for the warm and kind introduction. Bonjour tout le monde, je vois il n'y a pas d'interprétation, mais je pense qu'on pourra quand même essayer de faire quelque chose. Good morning, good afternoon. First off, I really want to express my warm appreciation to all of us here. I'm in a space amongst colleagues, partners, our Salima ambassadors and friends, and I must say your presence makes me feel that the support towards eliminating FGM is assured. This event serves as a building block to two very special moments. On February 6th, exactly 2 days, in 2 days, we will all observe the International Day of Zero Tolerance for Female Genital Mutilation under the theme, the 2022 global theme, Accelerate Investment to End FGM. An estimated 2.4 billion is needed to eliminate FGM by 2030 in 31 countries, priority countries. However, we are calling for different investments, investments in building partnership, mobilizing allies, including men and boys, women's group, community leaders, even a former practitioner of female genital mutilation to help eliminate the practice. After a retrospection of our achievements and a projection of our efforts towards eliminating FGM in 17 countries, including Yemen, Indonesia, the UNFPA Joint Program on the Elimination of FGM is launching its Phase 4 cycle 2022-2030, driven by the mission of a world free of genital mutilation, where girls and women have voice, choice, and agency. At the heart of this vision, targeted positioning of girls and women to drive the elimination of these harmful practices globally. With and despite challenges, we are confident the end of FGM is within reach. The Phase 4 intervention activities will focus on accelerating collective and multi-sectoral action by mobilizing an unstoppable movement of actors at community, national, regional, and global level. This will go hand in hand with strengthening the mechanism and capacity of actors, such as all of us in this room, and institutions to address discriminatory gender and social norms to advance gender equality and women's decision making. Our work at a joint program and all of us is predicted on the notion that a world free from FGM, where every woman and girls have voice, choice, and agency, is not just an aspiration, but a necessity and a reality. So 2022 leading to 2030 serve as a time for stock taking, for strengthening our resolve and partnership, and for ambitious actions. And I do recognize that the elimination of FGM by 2030 has set a high bar. And to achieve this reality, we are intensifying investment in strategic partnership to scale up programs and result with the rest of the system. The global concern, next slide, please. The global concern has affected over 200 million girls and women globally alive today. FGM is both an indication that gender inequality and outright violation of human rights, particularly women's and the girl child's right. Currently, as we all know, 4.2 million girls are at risk of undergoing FGM in 2022, and the numbers are expected to increase to 4.6 million by 2030. The significant increase can be attributed, of course, to COVID-19 reductions, measures which led to school closures, population growth, and violent conflict in some part of the continent, which have affected the intervention measures. The joint program has set bold objective to achieve by 2030 in order to change current trends. Yet, elimination of FGM will require a radical step towards change from all of us. We have made a lot of progress in a small part, thanks to our donors, which of course, including the European Union through the Spotlight Initiative, the government of Austria, France, Iceland, Italy, Luxembourg, Norway, Sweden, Spain, the UK, the United States, and we are really appealing for this next phase to more governments to support the joint program during this special phase. We also recognize that we are in a decade of action that calls for concerted efforts towards solving world problems such as FGM by 2030. More has to be done. The current level of effort is now sufficient to meet the global target of eliminating the practice by 2030. Progress will need to be at least 10 times faster than today. To answer the question on how we end FGM and the progress that we have made so far on the SDGs 5.3, we need to work with all members of community. FGM is deeply rooted and globally prevalent practice. It will take all of us, citizens, activists, policymakers, ambassadors, researchers, civil societies, affected communities, working together to eliminate FGM and create a world free from violence for all. With that, the UNFPA-UNICEF joint program, delivering the promise for this phase, next phase, has worked hard in partnership with others to support and enable evidence-based programming and narrow gaps between research generation and uptake in programming, policy development implementation, and lastly, resource allocation at all levels for a multi-sectoral effort to accelerate achievement of SDG target 5.3. As the sustainable goals target of 0 new cases of FGM by 2030 approaches, a focus on the utility of research for programming, policy development, and research allocation is critical. In achieving this goal, there's a need to be an evidence-based research agenda that seeks answers to most urgent priority questions, as well agendas that promote the effective and immediate translation and uptake of generated evidence, both at which current agenda seeks to achieve. In this regard, I feel confident asking you today to take up our mantle of change and proactively the movement towards eliminating FGM. There's no going back. I hope we will all join the UK network in launching the annual campaign. Let's keep moving forward. Invest, don't rest. I thank you.
Thank you so much, Mirelle, for your words. I think they truly resonated with all of us, especially, I mean, your message in all of us working together to end FGM, and that you're both working with and trying to appeal to governments to support the program even more, but also that we all to take up the mantle of change. So I think it really much resonates with our campaign this year. So thank you again. And we look forward to continue working together. Our next speaker, I am very pleased to introduce to you as well. We'll be talking about the power of youth to end FGM. Youth activism is actually something that's very close to my heart, and it's very much also why I spent a large part of my career working with and for youth, which makes me even more excited to introduce our next speaker. Cynthia is a Kenyan woman living in Ireland. She recently completed her BA in law and is currently a youth ambassador of our network, as well as a community health ambassadors and anti-FGM activists. She works under Akidwa, our Irish member, which is the national network in Ireland of migrant women. Cynthia, welcome. Thank you for being here, and you have the floor.
Hi, Anna. Unfortunately, Cynthia is having technical issues, which seems to be the theme right now. So we'll have to just wait a little bit for her to rejoin.
it seems indeed that it's a bit of a theme today. Unfortunately, not something that we haven't seen before after so many long months of video webinars and video calls, but hopefully it will be solved very soon.
Yeah, she's joining now.
Excellent. Hi, Cynthia.
Hi.
I already made your introduction to everyone when you weren't here. I'm really sorry. I didn't realize you were having technical difficulties. But thank you so much for being here, and please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Anna. Sorry, I had technical issues, but I'm back. So my name is Cynthia Karanja, and I wear many hats. I am a community health ambassador here in Ireland with Akidwa. I am also a youth ambassador, which is the hat I'm wearing today. So today is a very special day to me, and I believe it's also a special day to everyone who's here, because it gives us hope that we are a step closer to the society we are fighting for, a society free from female genital mutilation. One of the reasons why I'm engaged against female genital mutilation is because it is a practice that is taking, a practice that keeps taking, and I believe that is a practice that will not stop taking unless we stop it from taking. And in order for us to stop it from taking, I believe that we need to involve the youth, because the youth play a pivotal role in the future that we all want to see. I believe this because we are the future leaders. We have the power to reinvent the society. As young people, we have the power to reinvent the social norms, to have a world where we all have our rights observed, the future that we all desire to see. A world where girls live in peace, a world where FGM no longer breaches human rights, a world where all girls have control over their bodies and their future. I believe that the youth matter in the fight because we have our voices, something that no one can take away from us. We have the tools and the resources. Look at us here today. We have people from Germany, I'm in Ireland, Isma is in Brussels. I can see these people who are also joining us from Kenya. We have everyone from across the world. So we have the tools and the resources to create awareness and fight for the future that we all want. I also believe that the youth, as the future policymakers, future parents, and future leaders, have a responsibility to change the social norms for our future children and the future generation that comes after us, so as to make the world a better place. Therefore, today, I'm encouraging every young person to join the fight against FGM, because I believe a little progress each day adds up big to big results. So I'd like to encourage everyone to keep up the good fight, because we're getting there. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cynthia. I think your words truly inspired us all. And I agree with you that youth are the future, but I would like also to say that youth and you're also the present. And I think that you, with your activism, with everything that you do, really prove that every day, and you prove that to us all today. So thank you once again for opening our day today with such inspiring words. It is now my pleasure to move on to the next segment of our event, and that is the panel discussion on community leadership to end FGM in Europe and beyond. And for this, I would like to welcome Hayat, who is our co-president, who will be moderating this debate. Hayat is the co-founder of Save a Girl, Save a Generation, our member in Spain, and yeah, one of the organizations leading the one of the leading Spanish organizations in prevention, awareness, and eradicating FGM. She is also a prolific director and has directed several documentaries in developing countries, always related to cooperation within human rights issues. As the first generation in her family free from female genital mutilation, she wants to contribute to a world without any form of gender-based violence. Welcome, Hayat, and thank you so much for being here. And I'm very happy to give the floor over to you to moderate the panel.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Anna, and hello to everyone. I'm here today, as Anna said, to moderate these very important discussions on the importance of prioritizing the center community engagement in the movement and to end FGM. The question is, why do we need community leadership to end FGM? We have a very high quality panel to address this question today, and it's my pleasure to introduce each of them or each of the panelists that will intervene today. We have Amal Hussein Ismail, a 25-year-old Somali Spanish woman based in Madrid. She graduated in political science and public management, and she's an active, dynamic, decisive, and enterprising person. Her driving goal in life is to actively fight to eradicate female genital mutilation, forced marriages, and fully support the right of asylum seekers and refugees. Currently, she's working at Save a Girl, Save a Generation and Rescate International, as well as she is also a fellow of Tuizishi and Youth Ambassador Against FGM. Welcome, Amal. Also, we will have Dr. Eleonora Esposito, who is second national expert at the European Institute of Gender Equality, also known as IGA. She is second from the Institute of Culture and Society of the University of Navarra, Spain. A Mary Skłodowska-Curie Fellow for 2019-2021. Dr. Esposito has been exploring motives, forms, and impacts of gender-based violence against women in EU politics. At IGA, she's a member of the gender-based violence team and project manager of a new study mapping cyber violence against women and girls in the 27 EU countries. Thank you and welcome, Eleonora. Basma Kamel is also one of the panelists, is a 29-year-old Egyptian woman based in the UK, a feminist and anti-FGM activist. Currently a MA student of women and child abuse at London Metropolitan University. Basma is also the Selima Youth Ambassador for the Diaspora. Also a Tuizishi Fellow, London Cohort 2019 with Forward UK. She volunteers with different organizations supporting refugees and women in the UK. Thank you and welcome, Kamel, Basma. And finally, our panelist, Evin Incir, is a Swedish social democrat with Kurdish roots who grew up in suburbs of Bergen in the Swedish side of Gothenburg. She's a member of the European Parliament since 2019, and she's serving on the Committee of Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs, the Committee on Development and Community on Foreign Affairs, and she's also a member of the LGTB Rights Intergroup and also co-president of European Parliament Anti-Racism and Diversity Intergroup, also known with the Signals RD. Evin fights to promote democracy, equality, and feminism in Europe and beyond. Thank you all for being present in this discussion. I cannot wait to hear from all of you and your insights on this topic. I will, of course, be moderating this session where we will start with me asking some questions directly to the panelists, which they will have the chance to answer. We will try to keep each intervention as brief as to have more time for questions and to discuss. After my questions, I will also open the floor to the audience and ask and take questions directed to the panelists from the floor. If you're all ready, let's begin. My first question actually is for all panelists. According to you, what does community engagement mean when combating FGM? Why is it important to ensure community leadership in our daily work of fighting against FGM? I don't know if you want to raise your hands or you want me to name you, but I'll be happy if you volunteer. Okay, I don't actually see all of you at the same time. Yes, Evin, go ahead, please.
Thank you very much. And first of all, I need to apologize for the noise in the background. I'm sometimes traveling, and today is unfortunately one of those days. But I want to start up, of course, also with saying, expressing my thankfulness for inviting me to this very important discussion, especially a day as this. And as you rightly said, sorry, I was cut. As you rightly said, it is one of the worst forms of gender-based violence. And I think that community engagement means also to engage the whole society, as previous speakers already said, to engage whole society and all part of society on all levels. It also, for me, means to at large, engagement to at large extent involve also community sensitization in changing the dominant attitude in the society. It's a change of the patriarchal system to not only change, it is to battle to combat the patriarchal system that we are living in today. To me, community engagement also means working together with those primarily affected, because those primarily affected by it are those who knows best the solutions also. In this regard, I believe community engagement means putting a strong emphasis on the prevention, as well as, of course, the awareness about the situation. But one of the most important things, I think, is to try to start on a very early level with the prevention. While it is important that FGM is forbidden and criminalized, we also need to, of course, use the law as a tool in all our member states in the European Union, but of course also beyond. And we also, from the side of the European Union, not at least, needs to ensure that FGM or battling FGM is incorporated in all our policies. We have been, we adopted the Gender Action Plan 3 within the European Union, connected to the action plans of the European Union in external actions, as well as we have within the European Union the gender strategy. So all these strategies and action plans need to go hand in hand, and not only go hand in hand, they need to be transformed into actions. And when we're transforming them into action during the whole process, those that are being affected by it need to be included the whole way. And of course, no one should be left behind through the whole process. All kind of FGM, of course, needs to be combated. Yeah, to finalize and not to take too much more time, is that I think one of the most important is actually two things, as I mentioned. One thing is the whole society needs to be included, and the voices of those affected by it needs to be taken into account, and we need to start on a very early stage as in prevention, at the same time as we create awareness about the situation.
Thank you very much. Anybody else who like to go second? Basma, please take the floor.
Thanks, Hayat. Thanks, Evie, for your intervention. So as Hayat introduced me before, so I'm an Egyptian woman living in the UK. And regarding the question of today, what does community engagement mean when we combating FGM? Actually, as Cynthia said before, when she spoke about the youth role in ending FGM, youth and young people are part of the community. And not only youth, but also we have everyone, like family, we have policemen, we have religious leaders, everybody is part of the community. So ensuring community engagement in combating FGM is an important thing. And when we think about how and why we ensure community leadership in the daily work, because when Evin said, if I'm Evie, right? Yeah, when Evie said that FGM is a violation against human rights and is a form of patriarchy, and combating FGM and ensuring community leadership in the daily work, because it's a fight for dismantling patriarchy and trying to make a gender equality. So this is a daily basis work we need to focus on, and engaging the community in it and empowering the community as well, and young people especially, to practice and be trained and have the whole resources needed to overcome and stop, especially FGM, but also to fight the patriarchy in the society. So yeah, I think this are what I wanted to say about the questions, and I can pass to another one. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And we'll go about it later when we open the questions for the public. Amal, please take the floor.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thank you very much for this space, and especially for all the people who are here today. From my point of view, I really agree with all of you, what you just said, and especially when we are talking about what you just said, even about the law, for example. In many countries, we can see like there's already a law against FGM, but what we have learned about it is, even if there's a law against FGM, when the community is not engaged, when the community doesn't want to respect these laws, when the community do not understand why, or they don't want to respect why we don't have to continue with the FGM practice, then there's nothing we can do. That's why it's very important that all the community really respect and understand the importance of ending FGM. And that's why I was thinking also like the idea of giving the power and, you know, empowering the community, giving them the chance to be the one to speak and stand up for themselves. That is the most important thing, because we always have that, you know, and even I always say that in my own home, when someone comes from outside and try to tell me how to do things, I will not listen, because it's my house and I know my rules, you know. So I would like to understand that and know why they're giving me this suggestion. So I would change and make my own decisions. So the same way, when we're talking about the communities, like we cannot enforce, we cannot come with ideas that come from outside the community by itself. Like we already seen that many communities, they have a lot of leaders, young leaders. We can see activists, women who want to make the change, and what they need is a strong network that support them, give them all the tools to fight by themselves against FGM. And that's why I really agree with what you're doing and what we just said, all of us.
Thank you very much, Amal. So now we leave the floor to Dr. Eleonora.
Thank you, and thank you very much for the invitation. I actually agree with all the other speakers. You know, it's important that we have social pressure, and it's important that the presence of laws prohibiting FGM, they're determinants in the fight against FGM. However, this pressure can influence attitudes and behaviors positively, so they can abandoning FGM, but also negatively. That is to say, communities may want to continue to perform FGM or push to perform prior to migration in unsafe and unsterile environments, putting the life of young women at risk. So this is why community engagement is key in the fight to FGM, because only by engaging the community we will be able to to exert this pressure in a way that is positive. Because we improve cooperation with the community, we ensure a culturally sensitive outreach so that the social pressure that diaspora communities are subjected to in Europe does not backfire. Our studies show that only safe discussions help raise the voice of communities affected in the ongoing debate on FGM, and they facilitate behavioral change. So we need to ditch the jug and mug model if we want to receive input from the communities themselves. And this is why we really need cultural mediators, facilitators from participant communities to be involved, interpreters to encourage culturally sensitive discussions, and of course all this needs investment. When we are able to do so, then we can cater communities' needs. For example, in the focus groups that we conduct with both first and second generation women, they recommended us to engage in more educational talks in women's centers. They emphasized that doctors should have both a medical and cultural insight into sexual and reproductive health issues. That is to say that we really get a lot of insights from the communities themselves when we are able to engage with them. And this is the key. Also, when we listen to the communities, we come to realize that there are a lot of dangerous misconceptions, that we are still looking in the wrong direction, often from a policy-making perspective, that we are still adopting the wrong communication strategies, that we are still stereotyping the communities a lot. For example, a lot of authorities and policymakers in Europe still perceive FGM as a religious issue. And they communicate it this way. When we talk to the communities, we know that FGM is perceived by the communities as a cultural and as a traditional practice. So what does that mean? It means that religious and community leaders can be engaged to speak against FGM, given their influential position in the community. And this is just one of the examples of the amount of input that the communities themselves can give us, as long as we are able to engage with them in a productive and culturally sensitive way. And of course, investing in order for this to happen.
Thank you very much. And thank you all of the panelists. What I hear is that we need to listen to the communities, we need to count with the communities, and we need to work positively in safe spaces with them. Without this, there's no way forward. Thank you. Now I have actually some questions that I will be directing to each one of you. For the EndFGM EU Youth Ambassador, Amal Hussein. Amal, as a youth ambassador and anti-FGM activist for many years now, what will you say is needed to increase the participation of young people for the end of FGM?
Sorry, everyone, I had my microphone off. For me, I would say the most important thing is to give them voice. The youth, they have a lot to say, and they have a lot of things that it will be very important to count on when we're talking about ending FGM, especially when they see that their system is supporting them, when they can see that they can have the chance to speak, they have this safe spaces, and especially like for the survivors who went through FGM, when they see like there is already policies that are supporting them. And with this, I'm talking about, like, for example, in the case of Spain, there's no that much resources for them. We are talking about, for example, psychological support. We are talking about like medical support. We're talking about the hospital and the healthcare not knowing what is FGM. So when you see already like your system, your country is supporting you, when you see that there's enough spaces for youth to speak, to exchange ideas. I mean, we can see in all the big movement right now, youth are taking the chances to speak. They're fighting to build here. So giving them the chance to speak against FGM will help and support the fight.
Thank you very much, Amal. So what I hear from you is we need to give them voice. Thank you. My second question will be for an MEP Incir. You are elected parliamentarian from Sweden, and you know how much representation matters. What will be the best way to use the European Parliament as a platform to support the interest of the affected communities?
Well, as you said, representation matter, and representation, of course, means experiences that people are bringing with them into the discussions. And sometimes I actually, or many times, unfortunately, I feel that there is quite a lot of a lack of insight into reality in some issues when we are discussing within the European Parliament as well as within the committees. So representation is a key component in order to find the true and the best solutions on the challenges that we are facing when it comes to FGM, as well as, of course, when it comes to gender-based violence and gender inequalities in general. But I am happy that we, of course, have several actions and strategies in place within the European Union. One was the Gender Action Plan 3 that I mentioned, connected to the external policies and external actions of the European Union. The other is the gender strategy, which is more focused on the internal actions within the European Parliament. I was myself actually within the Committee of Civil Liberties, Justice and Home Affairs, the rapporteur on giving the committee's opinion on the gender strategy. And one of the issues that I myself raised was FGM, to ensure that FGM is thoroughly addressed within the action plans within the European Union. And again, representation within the Parliament, but also ensuring that the communities affected by it is engaged in the whole process when we produced our actions in different levels, because we can sit in our corners, in our committees within the Parliament and come up with very good thoughts and ideas. But in the end, we need to ensure that those proposals are really having a real effect when we are implementing them. And the only way we can do it, once again, is through engagement in the whole process, from point one to the implementation.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll stay with what you just said about engaging them in the whole process, but also about representation to avoid this lack of insight into reality that we are having. Thank you so much.
Hayat, I think you're muted.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. My next question is directed to an eager expert, Dr. Eleonora Esposito. In 2021, IGA launched their new research on girls and women at risk on FGM in 4 European countries. Could you tell us, please, a bit more about these findings in terms of community engagement and in such research in the EU level? I know you just told us some of the things that in these focus groups you discovered, but could you please tell us a bit more in these 4 European countries?
Definitely. Thank you very much. Yeah, we at IGE, we are very interested in the topic of FGM. Following a request by the European Commission in 2012, we started working on this topic. We have been producing 2 EU-wide reports, 28 country fact sheets, a collection of the practices, a step-by-step methodological guide on how to estimate the risk of FGM. And all these publications are, of course, freely available on our website, ige.europa.eu. In our latest 2021 publication, we focused on 4 countries, which are Austria, Denmark, Luxembourg, and Spain. We focused on other countries in other reports. And in our 2021 report, what we did, we also refined our methodology. Our methodology is a mix of qualitative and quantitative. And we estimate the number and proportion of girls at risk of FGM. And by doing so, we identify two scenarios. There is a high risk scenario in which we assume that the process of migration and acculturation has had no effect on FGM prevalence for both first and second generation migrants. And then a low risk scenario that assumes that it has had some sort of effect on first generation migrants and that FGM remains among second generation migrants at a lower level. This methodology, of course, includes a quantitative component. We triangulate relevant data on migrant population, country of origin, country of destination, the FGM prevalence rate in the country of origin, but it always includes a qualitative component. And this is very important because we always conduct focus group sessions with the members of the community. And this, of course, hasn't always been easy. These focus groups for the 2021 report were conducted during the pandemic. But we also managed to involve a hard-to-reach population. We managed to involve a first-generation population, Kurdish women as well from Iran and Iraq, as well as men who are always present in our, if not in our focus groups, in our interviews. And why conducting these focus groups is important for us? Because it's the way to better community engagement, because we see it as a needs analysis. We collect as much information as possible in order to build a comprehensive understanding of the needs and the issues facing the communities. So by means of these focus groups, we are able to take the pulse of current attitudes to female genital mutilation. And we know, like for example, has been mentioned in other interventions before, that this attitude is changing and that communities have a greater awareness of the consequences and that second generations, of course, tend to be more opposed. We know that women and men generally in our focus groups thought that FGM was an outdated practice and that had been abandoned. And this can constitute a risk because it can give a false sense of safety that it can generate. Some members of the community are not aware that FGM can also happen in Europe and not exclusively when traveling. We came to know that there is still a lot of confusion in relation to the legislation and services available in Europe and in the country of origin, which don't seem to be able to communicate. Affected communities, for example, are aware of the fact that FGM is illegal in Europe, but they're not always aware that it is criminalized also when performed abroad. There is less awareness that FGM is frequently illegal also in the countries of origin. We realize that participants still have limited engagement with the national healthcare systems in the countries where they moved because of language issues, because of the sensitive nature of the topic, and as such, women as a result rely on their network in the community for counseling of support, which we know can be dangerous for their health. So let's say that thanks to the focus group, we have a clear insight in the needs of the communities, and certainly they really enrich our studies and our reports.
Thank you very much, and congratulations for the report, even with the pandemic on the site.
Thank you, and thank you for putting the link to the report in the chat.
My next question is for community activist Basma Kamel. As an activist from an FGM affected community, what does engaging communities mean to you, and what would you say is not effective community engagement?
Right, thank you, Hayat, again. And I would like to say, me as an activist against FGM, involving in and engaging communities, which means it's like a cycle of empowering practicing communities who either support and encouraging practicing FGM or refusing and resisting the practice. So empowering these communities with knowledge and tools they need in order to reach our goal, which is ending FGM, hopefully soon. So I think this is an important part, because we are different. We are activists. We are students, young people, community members, as everyone said before, who has a lack of knowledge about the legislations available in the country they live, if they are in the diaspora or even they live back home, that the FGM is prohibited in the country. So we need to utilize all these forces, I would say, to reach the goal, and also make sure that the community is involved inside and in the middle of the process where every other stakeholder is working. And when I say it's not effective community engagement, I think because we are not letting them leading the process, we are not letting them involve themselves in the process of ending FGM, including monitoring and evaluation. As the report of IGA said, you are doing your research and using different methods in order to assure that the communities are involved in, like men, survivors, service providers. So we ensure that they are inside and they are giving the right information. So we assess their needs. We know what we need to do in order to end FGM, actually.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Basma. Again, we hear that we need to involve the communities in order to have an effective engagement. Thank you so much. I have a final question for actually all of you, and to conclude this insightful conversation. And you can raise the hand up, or I can give you the floor. According to your own experience, could you share what is the best practice to ensure community involvement to eliminate female genital mutilation? I don't know, Sesma, if you want to, I think it's just, if you want to take the floor, or someone else. Nobody.
Evin is raising her hand. I think you can go.
I could not see. Please go ahead, Incir. Hello, please take the floor.
Yes, do you hear me?
Right.
Okay, perfect. I think the key word would be empowerment, which was just said by Basma just a couple of minutes ago. Empowerment and support through political, organizational, economic, as well as, of course, ensuring that society also contribute with the support for the victims of FGM. In the sense of, it was raised before, psychological, medical. So we actually need to ensure that the whole society, from a political level to the local level, has awareness on what FGM really means, and how we ensure to support the communities as well as the victims of FGM. This, I mentioned the different strategies and action plans on the EU level, but more than that, it is important that, of course, that within the European Union, where we talk, that all the member states is actually taking their share of responsibility. We cannot just have action plans and strategies without them being implemented. It also needs to be implemented on national and local level for it to really have an effect. And that's where I, at least right now, feel that we are sometimes on the European level, which is an important step, of course, talking more and more about it. The awareness is getting higher and higher, but the implementation on a local and national level, it stops there. So it is important that the member states takes their share of responsibility, because we have, if I don't misrecall, over 600,000 inhabitants in our own union that are victims of FGM. And we also need to, of course, ensure to implement it within the external also. The Agenda 2030 was, for example, mentioned in the beginning. I think it's really, Agenda 2030 is a very important tool. Once I heard somebody say it's a tool to save humanity, and that is, but it's also a tool to battle the patriarchal system that we are living in, which is which leads to FGM and other kinds of gender-based violence to take place. And finally, I also want to add that an important legislation will be put on the table in the European Union soon, which will be focusing on gender-based violence. And within that, it would be very important that we are addressing addressing FGM.
Thank you very much, Incir. I don't know if any of the panelists wants to add something before I open the floor to the questions of the public. Yes, Eleonora, please take the floor.
Yes, I would really like to endorse what MP Evin said, and I absolutely agree. I think that in general, the findings from our study acknowledge that communities' involvement is still a main challenge, right? It's a huge challenge. We are aware of the fact that member states struggle to break down language and cultural barriers, to build trust, and of course, which they need to do if we are to tackle FGM and to be effective. So one of our proposed actions is that FGM affected communities must be involved in policymaking, and if they are to be truly engaged. Ensuring community involvement throughout the policy life cycle in the creation and the implementation of policies. We have some emerging good practices from the Somali community in Denmark, for example, and some actors are helping communicating the law around FGM, also educating their communities on the negative consequences, and this is very important. Our reports always come with a set of recommendations. A recommendation which is always returning is the fact that we have to involve men at all levels of discussion. Men have a role in family and community structures. They have a role in reinforcing gender power dynamics, as MP Evin was saying, yet they're not always systematically engaged in actions tackling FGM, and we need to develop platforms to engage men in the communities. In general, I agree with the MP again, because we need to adopt a more multifactorial approach. And I believe that our action should involve 4 different levels, which is the societal level, the community level, the interpersonal level, and the individual level. And at all these levels, we need to be active. For example, at the societal level, the laws are very important, but also creating a supportive environment for diaspora girls in European countries. Europe can be for them the place for better social and economic opportunities to empower them. But is this really happening? Because if it happens, it's really important, and it has a huge impact on the fight against FGM. At the community level, we've been talking about it in this meeting. At the interpersonal level, for example, we can talk about the different views on FGM between men and women, which is also very important. We can talk about marriage prospects for girls, cut or uncut. At an individual level, we can talk about the increased knowledge and awareness about health, legal and religious aspects of the FGM, and how are we building this knowledge. So again, for me, all of this is very holistic, and it's not only about the community, but it's about the society, it's about the interpersonal, the individual, and we really need to try to work at all these levels if we want to have an impact.
Thank you very much, Dr. Eleonora. For now, I think I'm going to, and the floor will be open for questions. Please raise your virtual hand and to be able to be given the floor, and put your questions also in the chat, and we'll kindly read them out. We'll take 2-3 questions at a time, which panelists will then have the chance to answer. And if there's more time, we'll take another round. Thank you. So let's see those hands raising. We have a question from Bintu Bojang, I think. Please open your mic.
So good evening, everyone. First of all, I'm so glad to be here. My camera is not. Yeah, first of all, I would like to thank the panelists. They are doing a wonderful job. And my question goes to Frau Eleonora. Is she from? Yeah, hello. Yeah, as a gender activist in a developed country, what do you think are the measures that we as community leaders in Europe or migrants who are trying to empower our fellow FGM victims to still stop this and to still see this as an illegal act when they circumcise their daughters, or not to only say, I will stop the practice because I want to stay in Europe, but they still have this mentality that FGM is something that needs to be done, because we as community leaders, activists, youth activists, we face very, very, very difficult challenges among our masses in Europe here. People are not really taking it as serious as we think, that how harmful FGM is, because even the First Lady of Sierra Leone, she is a future leader, she is a youth leader and a role model about a woman like her. When she sit down and say, when FGM practice has done nothing to me, it has no harmful impact on me, because they have circumcised me and I am still alive, I am healthy. When I am to give birth, it takes just 30 minutes before my baby comes. And a lot of women will tell you this when you are having conversations with them, when you are trying to encourage them to stop the practice, even if they flee to Africa for holidays, let them not stop practicing FGM on their daughters. They will tell you, look, so and so have been circumcised and they are not, there is no harmful. What do you think are the measures that we should do? And secondly, also about reconstruction, because right now, many victims are interested in reconstruction. Are there any measures from EU Parliament? How do we empower women who wants to undergo on reconstruction with financial aspects and empowerment? Thank you.
Thank you very much for raising these points. Extremely valid and coming from the experience. I will try to answer, and then maybe I can open also to the MP, because you mentioned the European Parliament. You are very right. The problem is that in the communities we have FGM raising to the status of a symbol of cultural identity and home country. This is inevitable. This is part of the cultural processes that happen in diaspora. What we can do is have a mixture of intelligence and luck, finding in the communities ambassadors that can give voice to the opposing view. That is to say, if our communication strategies are culturally sensitive, they are accessible in terms of language needs of the target communities, for example, then we are able to place greater focus on the people that are telling the side of the story that we believe in, which is the right one and the only possible one. This entails an element of luck, definitely, but also an element of investment. And this investment can only come with, it's monetary, first of all, and I will not stop repeating this. We need to invest financially into the fight against FGM, but also we need to make sure that our communication strategies are culturally effective and sensitive. Otherwise, they will not reach the actors that we want to reach. Regarding the other part of your question, which is what are we doing for women who want reconstruction? My answer is we're not doing enough, because we still have too many women that are not even aware of the fact that reconstruction in Europe is a possibility. And please, you are muted. Please.
Yeah, but in Germany here, we have a lot of women, for example, in the North Rhine-Westphalia, where our Verein is, we have a lot of women who are really willing to undergo the reconstruction, because I did it, and almost all of our executive members have undergone it. We use ourselves as example to other women. We have more than 63 members of our association who are refugees, and all of them are victims of human trafficking and female genital mutilation. So right now we have about 8 women who have undergone reconstruction, but it was really tough for us, because if these particular ladies are not been granted to asylum or to stay in Germany, the AOK cannot pay for them. They cannot do the financing, or even if they are entitled to get the Krankenversicherung in Germany, but they are not entitled to be given transportation fees and other logistic fees, and which is very difficult for refugee women who are trying to forget about FGM, who are trying to go under a cancellation about their trauma and other stuff. So this is why we found it very difficult. Right now we have 4 women who are still on the queue. We try to make appointments for them, but the places are too far from us. So one have to ask for donor. We have to Zamel, Spender, Damit. We can take them to where they are, and we have to also pay sometimes for the Beratung, because they are not yet in the system. They are not yet registered in the system. So these are the things that are really, really affecting many change makers in Europe here.
Absolutely, and this is why we need that the risks of FGM are addressed in the new Pact on Migration and Asylum.
Yeah.
The asylum should be gendered. We need to make sure that we recognize that women and girls are a specific group at risk. Because then if these women are not granted asylum, then they will not have access to the health and safety that they need in diaspora.
Yeah.
So you see how everything is connected. I don't know if MP Evin wants to say something about it.
Okay.
I would like to just say that we have many questions on the panelists, so let's try to be as brief as we can so we can give space for the discussion. MP Evin, if you want to just give your input.
I think very shortly, I mean, the most of it have already said by the speakers before, but it is that, of course, we need to address it within the migration package, but we also need to address it within the bigger package of gender-based violence. And it is not thoroughly addressed yet, the issue of battling gender FGM, sorry. I still think that on a society and on the national and local level, there is their lack of awareness about the issue, and therefore also not thorough actions being taken. So these conversations, for example, for me personally, I must say it's very important to hear with the community, to take part in, and hear from the community being affected by it, how it is on a local level, how it is in real life, in order for us to take it back into to the discussion. So to conclude is that we have much more to do within the European Union, and we might put it on a paper, but we need to also then go from papers and legislations to actions.
Thank you very much. We have another question from Annette Newman that she raised a hand. Please take the floor.
Hello. First of all, I want to thank everybody present for this really stimulating discussion. I've had a really tiring week and it's very grey and rainy outside, but you've given me a massive boost for the weekend. So I'm extremely grateful. And it's so nice to be with so many people who are so dedicated and inspired and inspiring. So a huge thank you, first of all. I'm an academic anthropologist based in Belgium, and I wanted to share the results of a big literature review that I did recently, funded by the EU Spotlight Initiative for a project with UNICEF Mali, because I think the findings are really relevant to this debate. So the first finding, so this is a big review of academic and grey literature, and the first finding was that the vast majority of scientific literature shows that health-based interventions work best if they centrally involve people who have the most authority in their communities to shape social norms around the practice. So the people who have authority, whether they oppose the practice or they support the practice initially, you need to involve the people who have the authority over the social norms. So this ties in directly to what the panelists have been saying about community involvement. You know, there's so much support for this approach. But the second finding we found is that in Africa, so it was mainly on the African literature, the people who have the most authority in practicing communities are female elders. It is grandmothers and other female kin, aunts, mothers-in-law, and it is postmenopausal women. Yet there is a huge gap between the fact that it is older women, grandmothers, who have the most authority, and the people who are most likely to be solicited by interventions as change agents, which is predominantly youth and men. But female elders are ignored. And we also found that if they are not involved, because they have the authority, they are more likely to resist interventions. We've also found that there are many assumptions and stereotypes that female elders are conservative. They always hold views supporting FGM, when in reality, you know, youth are just as likely to support FGM in these kind of remote rural communities. And that when engaged in a culturally sensitive way by interventions from the outset, female elders will change views in a surprisingly quick amount of time, and they become extremely powerful agents of change. And I've worked with an organization in the south of Senegal, the Grandmother Project, which does just this. So I wondered if the panelists could speak to this. And I just want to, you know, really reiterate that, you know, by raising the role of female elders, it's not to diminish or criticize in any way the work of youth ambassadors, right? This is so important. But as Mirelle says, we all need to, everyone needs to be involved. Everybody needs to play a part. And personally, I'm an intergenerational feminist, meaning that I believe in girls and women of all ages working together for the health and well-being of girls and women of all ages. So not pitting different groups of women and communities against each other. So I just wondered if the panelists could speak to that, and would EndFGM consider having a grandmother ambassador alongside your youth ambassadors and your men's ambassadors? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anek. Thank you very much for sharing your insights. I think if you could share on the chat, maybe the report or something many people will appreciate. We do have a lot of questions and we need to move forward. So I'll give the word to the next person raise their hand, and then there's a question raised to Basma that from the chat. So I would like to give the floor also to Rock Cosette. I'm not sure if I said the name correctly. I apologize.
Thanks a lot. It's perfect, Hayat. Thank you very much. First of all, thank you for this extremely interesting debate. A lot of food for thought. I will be as brief as possible, and I will tell you that, okay, first of all, I work for the European External Action Service. We are in the full swing of the preparations of the upcoming summit between the African Union and the European Union. And I would really like for you to help us bring your instances, very important ones, on ending female genital mutilation to the summit. This is why I would like to inform you, maybe you know already, or maybe some of you not yet, that there will be an Africa-Europe week that will be immediately preceding the summit. The European Commission has just published the website. I will write you now in the chat the link to this website where you can subscribe to the relevant initiatives. There are many, many of them. Just don't hesitate to subscribe and to bring your voice to this very important thing. So I would also say that it could be an occasion for us, Amal, to build stronger networks, and it could also be an occasion to coordinate the work between the Gender Action Plan 3 and the EU Gender Strategy, as Incir mentioned, and the synergy of all the programs. This could be mentioned during the Africa Week initiatives, and don't hesitate to mention it. And also what Eleonora mentioned about the new Pact on Migration and Asylum and the insertion of FGM in that pact, it is also a good occasion to flag, because the conclusions of the Europe-Africa Week will be brought directly to the table of the heads of state of both the African Union's 55 countries and of course the entire European Union. So I will just basically write you the link, and I hope to see you very numerous there. And thank you very much for the very interesting debate. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Basma, before there's a comment that's for you, but yeah, it's from Sophie Luber, who was saying that we totally agree that men in the communities and to target men in the communities. What were your approaches? But I think we have tackled this matter during the conversation. So I will just give the floor to the next person, and Stefania Palmieri.
Yes, hello, nice to meet you, and thank you all for your presentations and answers. I'm originally from Italy, where I just completed my training in gynecology, obstetrics and gynecology, and I must say that I did not know much about FGM until I worked for 6 months in Sierra Leone. So I perfectly understand that the focus of the meeting is involving the community, but I was wondering if the community plans to involve hospitals across Europe, because I feel that in general, doctors and health carers in Europe don't have much knowledge about these kind of issues.
I don't know which of the panelists would like to answer the question.
I would like to just intervene to what Stefania just said about the doctors' roles, because I am a survivor myself, and once I moved to the UK and I went to the hospital, the doctor also was like, he heard about FGM, but he never like seen an actual survivor. So he was like curious to understand why this practice is being done. So I think there's a lack of information about FGM when I'm not sure about the medical curriculum in Europe and especially the UK, what they teach and inform the students about FGM, but I'm sure that there's something. But also what I wanted to highlight from Egypt, where I come from actually, that there is an intercultural and intergenerational conversation are now open, like started from medical center, and some Egyptian doctors are doing the reconstruction surgery and opening a conversation with the community members to understand the consequences of FGM. And also there are some social media initiatives they started in Egypt to open conversations between older generations and younger generations to educate and teach them about FGM, what does it mean and its consequences, and how to prevent the practice as well. So what I'm seeing, it's a best practice in my home country actually. And this is what I wanted also to highlight, that these type of best practice are existing, but we need to link more the services and especially the medical and psychological services, as Amal mentioned in the beginning of this event, and also ensure that there are initiatives and projects and investments in the medical sector in order to support survivors and prevent the practice in the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Basma. Well, we are actually coming to an end, and I would like to give the floor to any panelist who would like to answer a question that maybe has been said before and did not have the chance. This is your moment. Please take the floor. Amal, please.
I would just like to add what just Basma said, because for me, I think it's really, really important that the people who are working with us in our society are aware about FGM, as Stephanie said, because I was thinking even like for many women from across all of the countries, they really have an issue to go to the gynecologist, because in many places, in many countries, in many communities, in many families, it's still even a taboo to ask for help and when you're going about healthcare and gynecologist. So imagine if you're already been affected of FGM and you were aware that in the society where you were, no one knows about it and they don't talk about it, and you know there's a taboo, and you still make the step forward to go for the gynecologist, and then you get this moment when no one knows about it and they treat you in a different way because they don't know how to handle the situation. This can be really traumatic, and it can go all over against what we are doing here, which is creating a space, like an open, safe space where all the communities can talk about it, know about it, and then be aware about how can we end FGM, you know? So before ending the FGM, we should create this safe space for all of us survivors and the women who never got through it, and they want to be aware about it and know how they can help each other, you know? So I really think that's a very important question, Stephanie, and I think we should, all of us, try to work more in creating policies that can assure this.
Thank you very much, Amal. I don't know if any other panelists would like to add a word before we close up and we go to the next part. I guess not. So I think it has been a very, very productive conversation where we agree, no? I think it's a common agreement that it's important to engage communities, to invest more, to have more resources, to be able to cover all the needs that come from communities. And I think this is just one more step towards that and listening that we need to do more. So I'll just give the floor to Miriam, I don't know, to Isma, and to present. Anna to take forward. Thank you so much, everybody. And Anna, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Hayat, for moderating this very interesting panel, and also a big, big thank you to all the panelists. It was truly, truly so interesting, and I think that was really clear by all the questions that we got. This also leads me to a slight apology because we are running a little over time, but we felt that it was a real shame to cut the conversation short. So we gave a little more space for questions and answers and hope that you'll bear with us a little longer for the next part. And once again, thank you all for the amazing panel. Now I just want to give the floor to our communications officer, because we've come to the really exciting moment where we want to share with you what's coming this year for our annual campaign 2022, since today is the day that we're launching it with you here at this event. Miriam Mamedi, please, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone. Just bear with me. I'm sharing my screen. I hope you all see it. Can you just say yes?
Yes.
Thank you so much. So hello, everyone, and thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for being here with us to celebrate Zero Tolerance Day. And we're so happy to have you join us as well for this launch of this brand new annual campaign of the network. So every year, the EndFGM European Network chooses one area, one team that we want to put the spotlight on and that we want to share about. Last year in 2021, it was about intersectionality. And we were so happy of how the campaign turned out last year. We were so lucky to be able to be on this learning journey on intersectionality and to be able to share this learning journey and share the knowledge that we were acquiring with all of you. We engaged with all of you, we connected with all of you, and it was truly gratifying to go through each team and each intersection between FGM and another form of oppression. And strong from this experience, we want to explore another topic this year. So the 2022 annual campaign will be about how do we end FGM? So we always say that we're working to end FGM. Our name is the EndFGM European Network. Last year we said we were working to end FGM for all, but what does it mean? What does it concretely mean to be ending FGM? What does it mean to be working to end FGM? And most importantly, when you're supporting us, what are you supporting concretely on the ground when it comes to ending FGM? So this year we want to have a look at the work happening behind ending FGM. So this means decomposing the movement into its parts and decomposing the movement into the essential components of what it means to end FGM on the ground in Europe and globally. We want to be able to share about different areas of work which are all equally necessary to come to the elimination of the practice. And most importantly, we want to also give the center stage to the people and the organizations behind the movement to end FGM. So these people, the members of the network, the ambassadors of the network, but also all the activists and all of our allies in this movement to end FGM are the movement. They are the strength of the movement, they are the power of the movement, and they are also a wealth of knowledge. Our membership, our ambassadors are experts, and they're a wealth of knowledge. They are working tirelessly every day to end FGM on the ground, whether at national level or in Europe and globally. And they're gathering a lot of knowledge while they're doing that. And we want to give you access to this knowledge, and we want to give you access to this treasure of expertise that they all have and that they all can share with the general public, with citizens, with policymakers, researchers, etc. So we are going to explore 5 different themes throughout the year. So these 5 themes are 5 key components of the movement to end FGM in Europe and globally. So the first one that we're going to dive into is going to be advocate. So of course, it's extremely important when fighting the practice to advocate against it, but also to try to influence the legislation and the policies. This is our specialty at EndFGM in the European level and also globally, but our members also nationally, some of them are advocating towards national authorities to change legislations and policies as well. Then we want to talk about research, because research is extremely important. If we don't know the numbers, the situation, if we don't know how to best support survivors, what works and what doesn't, we cannot plan our actions. And research and data collection is something that we continuously advocate for. And some of our members are also research centers, and they have all this expertise on research that they will be able to share with us. After that, we're going to talk about support and how we support survivors. So this is linked to research. Once we know how to support them, we want to be able to support them and to advocate for better support for them. So some of our members as well, they are providing this support to survivors on the ground, and they have this knowledge, they have this hands-on knowledge of how to best support survivors, and they will be able to share that. Then the next point is educate. Of course, it's extremely important to raise awareness on FGM and gender-based violence, whether it is in school, but also for the general public. This is also the purpose of this campaign, to educate. But educate also means training professionals who are dealing with FGM survivors and girls at risk. So social workers, medical professionals, legal professionals, all of these have knowledge that they need to have to be able to properly and sensitively deal with FGM cases when they come. And so some of our members, again, they are specialists in educating children, but also in training professionals, and they will be able to share their knowledge on that. And finally, the team of today and the last team that we will explore is engage, and it's engaging communities. So this topic has been covered today, and we're going to dive into it even more with the knowledge of the people who were present today, but also more of our ambassadors, more of our youth ambassadors, and also our members who are focusing on community engagement, our community-based organizations as well, who are also fighting FGM on the ground, and community activists as well. So these are the 5 teams. They're the 5 components of what we do every day to end the FGM. And of course, this campaign is going to be mainly relayed through social media. And we also need you to support this, to support our efforts towards educating. And so we want you to engage, to connect with us, to ask questions, to share our content, but also to produce your own content and share it with us. We would love to uplift it as well. So please, join the movement, join the conversation. This campaign is about the people behind the network, but the truth is that you're all behind the network and behind the movement to end FGM. You're all needed to end FGM because it will take all of us to eliminate the practice. So to conclude, we are all behind ending FGM. Yeah, that's it. Please join our campaign.
Thank you so much, Miriam. I am so excited about the launch of this campaign, but also to dive into all these topics and really put our members and our partners at the center stage, the ones who are doing the work on the ground every single day. And as Miriam said, please support, join, and spread the word, because without you, we won't have such a successful campaign. So please join in our campaign. To close our event focused on community engagement, it is fitting to speak about an area of community engagement, which is we still haven't really explored in our event today, and that is male engagement. And therefore, I am very pleased to introduce another one of our ambassadors, Rodrigue. He is a champion of change with Akiva, our Irish member, and he is a facilitator looking into the issue of FGM among migrants living in Ireland in the direct provision centres. Rodrigue works with men and communities affected by FGM and is involved with a network, as I said, as an ambassador, and works towards raising awareness on the issues of FGM at EU and global level. Rodrigue, welcome to our event, and please take it away.
Thank you so much. Hi, everyone. I'm so happy to be part of the group and to share my experience. Like you say, Rodrigue, as a community health ambassador, is a facilitator. I'm looking into the issues of female genital mutilation among migrants living in direct provision in Ireland, as well in the settled community, and working to raise awareness around and fight the problem of FGM. My goal, like we can hear everyone who was passing here, is to empower and to mobilize men to reject FGM and challenge norm and belief that accept FGM at community level. This because the inclusion of men, especially when looking kindly at their place in the society, as well as the reason which make FGM to drive is important. So why it is important to engage men and boys in the global fight? In my view, with my experience working with men, without men and boys, we can't end FGM. Why? Men are leaders. Their voice perceives power. Power of men as father. Men, they are brothers. Men, they are husband. Men, they are friend or son of women suffering from FGM. So men can say no to that human right violation. And the position of men can be used at the community to engage them in the global fight. What men can do, just briefly, what men can do, because their voice perceive power, men can speak to another man about the danger of FGM. Men can educate other men and the community at the large about the danger of FGM, so that men can stop demanding girls to be cut for purpose and marriage ability. Men support their wife who might be going through some of the harmful effects of FGM. Men also protect their daughter from this harmful practice. Men can be advocate in the community for the right of women. So it's very important to engage men and boys for that global fight. And I want to go for some recommendation about the fight, how to engage men, why to engage men. Men are still founded in their culture. Because now when you are talking with men in the community everywhere, they say, it's our culture, why you want to eradicate it, is our culture. So men, they are still founded in their culture. They need to be, to have more education to the consequence of FGM. When I was working, I started work with men as part of the EU funded AFTA project in 2016, where Dr. Caroline, who I want to say thank you, who carry out research on engaging men to end gender-based violence, train us how to work with men through the reflection action methodology. So she has many knowledge how you can work with men using tools, how you can introduce FGM, talk to men, how we can eradicate FGM. And she trained us to use tools to talk to men. So men, they are more in their culture and they need more education for this. Also, some youth are ignorant about FGM and will need education in relation to such field. As a result, we need to employ the right strategy to engage them with their involvement of cause. To finish, As a community health ambassador, working on FGM topic has made me to realize that more is still to be done in this area. This can be through intergenerational dialogue. We can't continue to talk the topic to say FGM is a taboo. I think it's over. Now it's time us to talk about it in our community, in our family, in our place, everywhere we are going, we must talk about FGM. Why a mom, a sister who went through the practice, who suffer and continue to send her daughter to be cut? All those questions can wear awareness amongst our family, amongst our community, how our sister can be cut and continue to suffer. So we need intergenerational dialogue in our family, in our community, and we can stop, we can finish, we can reject FGM. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my experience.
Thank you so much, Rodrigue, for sharing your experience and for always being such an ally to the movement towards ending FGM. This brings us to our closing of our event. Thank you all for being here. I would like to start by saying a big thank you to all of the speakers who enriched our event, who brought your insights, your experience, and a lot of food for thought. I would also like to give a thank you to the wonderful EndFGMU Secretariat, who, well, without which this event wouldn't have happened. And in particular, a shout out, of course, to Miriam, who has been the lead when it comes to developing the campaign and will continue to be the lead in the rest of the year. Also, a big thank you to our members, without which the network would not exist. And who are really the power of the movement, as well as a thank you to, of course, our ambassadors and youth ambassadors for your tireless work every single day. And then last but definitely not least, thank you to all of you for being here today, our partners, our allies, and for actively participating, asking questions. As has been said numerous times today, but all of us are needed in order to, well, win this fight. All of us, all of our voices and all of our work matter. And it's truly remarkable to hear from everyone's work and all the experiences that we have. So a big, big thank you to you all. And please keep in touch this year and keep engaging with our campaign. Have a lovely, lovely afternoon and a lovely weekend. And remember that on Sunday is the day of zero tolerance.